I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable. Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up, no, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind.
Well, everybody, welcome back once again to the channel. You know it is. And we're on the live stream. We're going to be talking about the 5050. What's the hype about? Well, it's not what the hype about is. It's thinking about the fact of what could be the hype or what can't be the hype. There's many things I've been hearing around the internet. People talking about the fact of, what was it? Is it worth the $250 or is it $100 value? I mean, that's what the title is on the video for the live stream. But you got to look at the competitors when it comes down to the range of it, like the A580, the Arc A580, the RX 6600. And if you are going to compare it onto with the fact of all its enhancements, then that's a different story. But if once you take those, a lot of people are not into the 4-time frame gen and everything else, but there was also new discoveries too that they're deciding to make some of the what do you call it, assets on the games and lower the amount of let's say the assets on there, like trees, for example. You got trees on the game and it's 38 gigabytes, and they're lowering the assets down to 51 megabytes. That's going to be a big offload for, you know, to play your games. So that kind of takes down to your VRAM. But if they're going to start offloading a large amount of assets from the games, then 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not going to turn out to be a bad thing. Truthfully, it's not, because they're going to be taking a large heap of the load off of the system. Oh, there, MTBK, you have a theory too. Tell me what your theory is and we'll talk about it. While you're doing that and you're writing up your theory, what I could do is I can come up with what's being talked about around on the internet, so we got something else to talk about. So go ahead, tell me what your theory is, my man, and let's go from there. So well, while you're handling that, what we're going to do is we're going to handle over to the action screen, and we're going to have a look and see what I got cooking there. Okay, I pulled this up from Video Card, shout out by the way. NVIDIA's new DLSS transformer model requires 20% lower VRAM usage. And that's what I've been hearing kicking up around. Let me see what MTBK is talking about here. Sure, first about the 8GB one. Bag games are too expensive to run anyway. There is no need to complain much about the memory buffer size. True. It's not going to change the aspect, but if you look at it in the fact that they are changing the assets and making them lower in size, gives a bigger advantage to 8GB of VRAM, because they could lower the assets down to where the games you can play with a great setting, great FPS, and still run at between 4 and 6GB of VRAM, which is going to be perfect. So I don't know why everybody is complaining about the cards. I'm not complaining about the cards. I'm just saying the fact of to where NVIDIA put their graph chart that they did for the 5050 to exceed the 4070 in performance. Not happening. Guarantee that 5050 is not going to strike over the 4070. No way. The 5060 doesn't even strike over the 4070. So why would they take and show a graph that it's way over the 4070? It's not possible. My theory is that plug and play GPUs are like GTX 1050 Ti's. Yep, I got the GTX 1650, yeah. And even the RTX 3056 gigabytes have some sort of popularity because they are easy to use accelerators. True. That's because they're not tacked with a bunch of garbage. So basically, if you can't get your meat fingers on it and it's not available for you to test, then you're stuck with what's on that card. So if it's taken away from you and you're not allowed to use it, but you still get great gameplay, you still get the great gameplay, then guess what? You're set. If you treat your 1650 like I do my 4070 and I treat them equally, you're still going to have a great gameplay. I know when I did the Wednesday live stream that Linux didn't turn out great, but the reason why Linux did not turn out great was because I was unable to put the driver software in for that graphics card. I was on like 2 drivers lower than the actual driver that was supposed to be in there. which I can work that out. It's going to take time for me to get the new driver in, so I can figure, I got to figure the coding and the pseudo and how to get it in there. So that's going to take a little time for me to work that out. So if AIB Partners sells some no power connector cards and players get more performance without spending much on a 20 gigabyte RTX 4000 small form factor ADA, they get much more good graphics for the money. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah, because you're constrained to 75 watts to the motherboard. Okay, the power comes from the motherboard through the PCIe connection, and you're restrained up to the max 75 watts, which I have yet to see any of them really go above 75 watts. So you'll be looking at between 68 and 70. I would consider the max. So if it's balanced and it's doing well, leave it alone. Just play your games. I always say that if it worked, your card is working well, your PC is working well, and you're enjoying your games, just play your games. Stop worrying about the driver updates and stuff like that unless it's necessarily needed. I'm going to reiterate this again. Unless it's necessarily needed, I wouldn't worry about it. You think you're going to get a couple extra % performance out of the driver upgrades? Some might. It's a hit and miss. So if you think you're going to get more or less, truthfully, right now, if you're on the 40 series, you're really not getting any more. So, because it's all being pertained to the 50 series, if you get what I'm saying. So, you think the RTX 5060 numbers have something to do with the updated and more aggressive upscaling? Okay, got it. Yep, pretty much. I mean, I am not into gamers' heads, but I like these low power cards, and I think they sell nicely. Yeah, they will if you want like a small form factor build. Yeah, I mean, who would not want one? I would want one. You know, something really small like an ITX. Some people go as far as doing the Adreno and set up little Adrenos, you know, for CPU usage, and then they connect their graphics card to it, and they have like the smallest form factor you've ever seen in your whole life. But yeah, some people really like to get in that deep tinkering. You know, one day I'll get into that deep tinkering to where, you know, I can take, let's say, any processor and, you know, put a removable socket on it and attach it to the Adreno and, you know, attach your graphics card and everything else to it like you would a regular computer. But then it would turn out, to make sure you get your drink and snacks, by the way, then it would turn out to, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, by the way, that it's no bigger than this. You got a really tiny, you know, oop, my bad. And you know what I forgot to do, guys? I forgot to turn on the camera. You didn't tell me. What the heck there, bro? You didn't tell me. Okay, we'll turn on the camera for you. So, yeah, it's a really dinky one, about this big. So, and it's stacked. That would be, I would think, something that I would love to try. Really. I mean, something that's not usually done, but if it can be done, it can be done. I really like this from Walmart. This is $10. Look at this. Holds 1 liter of liquid. Problem is the ice, they melt really quick in the cup. So that's why I pulled this bad boy out. Ice don't melt that quickly. So getting back to what we were talking about, let's go ahead and switch back. Oh, we're already here. Duh. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. The lower VRAM usage. So, this says we return to the DLSS transformer update from a few days ago. NVIDIA has released a new SDK, software development kit, that includes DLSS, updated DLSS libraries for upscaling, ray reconstruction, and DLAA technology. The most important information is that the transformer model, which replaces the older CNN-based DLSS model, is finally out of beta. Wow, finally out of beta right here. That's what it's saying. So, with the release of NVIDIA's also introduced VRAM usage optimizations. Hold on, guys. My bad, you gotta, you gotta love those phone calls, as I would say. My bad. I mean, I'm not into game... Oh, we already discussed that. Ooh. I gotta get my head back into the gear. Okay, let's get back into it. Specifically, the new version requires less memory. While this was only briefly mentioned in the official changelog, the updated DLSS programming guide provides more details on these changes. For the transformer model, the 310.3.1.0 SDK now uses 87.77 megabytes at 1080p resolution. Wow. Which is 19.8% less than the previous version. This VRAM reduction also applies to other resolutions, including 1440p, 4K, and now 8K. Now they're coming up with the 8K, guys. Some tells me they're going to make this the new normal. On average, memory requirements around 20% lower. So they show a chart here with the 3.10.2.1.0. So let's see. Let's get the calculator out. You guys love the calculator, I know it. So between the, let me get this up there. Between the CNN model and transformer, let's say 1080p. So you're telling me 106.9 minus 60.83. So you're getting 46.07 better on the transformer model? Is that right? That can't be right. This is what they're claiming. So the new one, the 3.10.3.1.0, this is 2.1.0, this is 3.1. Says RTX 50, 40, and 30. 85.77 megabytes less. Or that might be the total. We'll have to read into this a little bit better. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Hello there, Brain Dead. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. Hey, Dakota. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. 8K's been out for a moment. Yeah, I do agree with that, Brain Dead. I do agree with it. It has been out for a moment. But it's not being implemented. Because our GPUs are not really specifically set for 8K performance. We're set on 4K performance, but 8K, that's kind of stretching it a little bit. So, I lean more to the 3090 just so I can use CUDA. Well, I don't blame you there. But still at 900 to 1K. I don't know. Looks like that the new driver update they're going to be doing, it looks like that it's going to be lowering the texture resolutions and making things go down more to where you're using less VRAM. I think this might be a money kind of thing, a situation to where they're trying to save themselves some cash. Could be. So they don't have to spend more on more VRAM. So they limit the programming on the games to lower the asset features. Something don't sound right to me. You guys tell me what you think. I mean, for real. That was the time when I watched More Gamers Nexus content, and he said, yeah, 8K. Maybe if some players want to restart its Counter-Strike Source career. Yeah, probably, bro. Lean quite a bit watching this. Yeah. Look, I think that in the next 4 years that this is what they're going to do. They're going to move themselves away from 1080p. And this is what other reviewers are hoping. Not me. I love 1080p. Don't get me wrong. It's great. It's got it gives you the visualization, gives you everything you need, I think. But the only thing that it does is it puts more load on the CPU instead of the GPU. But if they kind of offload some of that load on your CPU and put it more to the GPU, I think they might have a better solution for 1080p instead of worrying about going to 8K. My opinion. It sounds like it. If we are maxing Ohm's law, maybe all they can focus on is drivers. That's all they're hoping for right now. AMD's doing it, Intel's doing it, NVIDIA's doing it, they're all doing it. Hardware has come to a point. Hardware has come to a point, guys, to where, truthfully, they can't get it any smaller. Hardware has come to a point where they can't get it any smaller. And if they go to make it smaller, then you're going into the quantum phase. And not a lot of people are ready for that quantum phase. Not even the government's ready for that quantum phase. So with having that mindset, because people don't want to take and go full AI capability, they can't afford it. It's too expensive. But people can use TVs now these days with HDMI. I know, I do the same thing here, bro. I got the same thing on my screen right here, where you can see it. I use a, I mean, it's a smart TV. You know, it's got all the bells and whistles, but I don't see why, you know, people got to focus on having the best monitor in the world. All you need is a monitor that gives you the best colors and images without blurring. So, yeah. I can read what you write. I am not brain dead most. Oh my God. MTBK, that's too much, man. But guys, this is the deal. Let's go back to it and see what else they got rolling on this. So, okay. Let's move on down here. This essentially means DLSS will require less VRAM to run super resolution and ray reconstruction models for common setups like 8 gigabytes of VRAM and 1080p resolutions. The memory usage to run the model is barely 1%. Oh my God. Am I reading this right? I mean, I hope I'm reading this right. Am I reading this right? Come on, guys. This right here, this says DLSS transformer improvements 1080p. Older version, newer version, reduction. So they're saying 19.76% on 1080p. 1440p, they're saying 20.75%. And 4K, they're saying 20.62%. You get a better percentage on 1440p than you do 4K. And when it comes to 8K, it looks like you only get 19.26. So you get a better resolution bump on 1080p and 1440p. So what is this telling us? Okay, that's the end of that right there. So, but what is that telling us? I mean, what is it really telling us? Let's think about this. If they're going to lower the resolution for 8 gigabyte graphics cards, what do you think that's going to do for the 12 and 16? That's going to even lower it even better yet. So you're not even going to be approaching the point of no return when it comes to the max line of VRAM that you have on your graphics card. So if they're lowering it that much, what's the trade-off? What's the good and bad? That's what we don't know. That's right now, that's what we don't know, what the good and bad of that trade-off is. Just like if you're going to get the RTX 5050 RTX 5050 GPU. It's got 8 gigabytes of VRAM. What's the trade-off? Let's see. Let's go ahead and go back to the action screen. Okay, let's see what the trade-off is. The RTX 5050 with the GB207 got 2,560 cores, 80 TMUs, 32 ROPs, 8 gigabytes in size, GDDR6, and 128-bit bus. Okay. Now, well, it's PCIe 5.0 X8, which that can be looked down if you have a motherboard that does PCIe 5.0. Then that could be broken down to PCIe 4.0 X16. Now, if you do a 4.0 motherboard, that could be broken down to PCIe 3.0 X16 speeds. So that's what you have to kind of roll with. So it's an unknown transistor size. They don't know what die size it is. But looking at the right here, and this is what I said on the video, what was it yesterday? Look where it is. Look where I said it was going to be. Exactly where I said it was going to be. Look where Tech Power Up put it. This is exactly where I said it was going to be. between the 1070 Ti and the Vega 56. I don't know if, I mean, because let's go right here. RX 6600, 17% faster, guys. 17% faster. Even the 5700X is equal in speed. I'm looking at price-wise. For $223, I can get me a 6600, which they're saying is faster than the 5050. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but let's see. MTBK says, last thing I heard is Transformer looks way better in games than CNN model at the cost of a couple percent performance. Yeah, true. Hello, JK. Good to see you. Welcome to the channel. Will the 5050 be faster than my 250 Titan V? I guess not. Well, I don't think so. So, I mean, a 1080 is, I mean, look at right here. Right here alone. All these cards. 5700, 12% faster. 1080, 8%. Vega 64, 6%. 5600 XT, 5%. Arc A580. Not the B, the A580. And that's 4%. The 1070 Ti, 3%. And we're talking about what? Few generations back? Hello there, Water Events. Welcome to the live stream. So, yeah, the Titan V is way up there. I do agree with that, MTBK. I think the 2070 is the better deal. You got it is. I mean, even the 2060 is the better deal. 2060 Super, 2070, 22%. A770, 27%. I mean, Radeon's, was that? Radeon 7, 30%. Titan X, Pascal, 33%. 1080 Ti, 37%. 2070 Super, I mean, 39%. 4060, 43%. I mean, if you do the price per dollar, I mean, the 5060, 46% from the baseline of the 5050. That is the biggest gap I have ever seen in my whole life. That's like the Grand Canyons of GPUs. Between the 5050 and the 5060, it's like the Grand Canyons. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, seriously, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of reluctant on the 5050. Hello there, Fake Frames. Good to see you. Good to see you. Titan V in these charts are about 85% faster than RTX 5050. But the small GPU has better features and can help save money. True and not true, because the 5060 is $300 and it's got 46% more performance than the 5050. $50 difference for 46% more performance, man. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, here, it doesn't lie. Right here. And I mean, you can't make this up. I mean, I couldn't even make this up. There's no way I can make this up. I mean, that's a big gap and that's a big difference. And that was my whole point on the video yesterday. So we don't know the exact performance of the 5050 yet, but I expect it to be around a 3060 performance, since Tech Power Up performance isn't accurate until after it releases. I do agree. And I was going to tell you guys, take it with a grain of salt right now. And that's what I was going to tell you. Take it with a grain of salt. But for me and my perspective right now, what I see is, I would say this. If at all cost, from NVIDIA's charts, let's do this. Let's go back to NVIDIA's charts. Where was it? Right here. Let's go back to NVIDIA's charts. At least I have a hold of it. Let's go back here. 4x frame generation. This is the 5050. Oh, geez, you guys can't even see that. Let me fix that. There. My bad. RTX 5050, 4x frame generation with DLSS 4. Cyberpunk right here. If you were to take 170, right? Let me get this calculator here. If you were to take 170, I would say this on Cyberpunk alone right here is about 170 estimated. 170, and you divided that by 4. That gives you 42.5. And that right there, my friends, are close to what it says for a 3050. What it says for a 3050. If you were to take off the frame generation, 4x frame generation, made it just frame generation with ray tracing, it would equal to the 3050. Okay? I mean, this is their numbers. This is not mine. So take it like it is, and you know, that's theirs. And that's what they're quoting. So if you're telling me that you have to use software to get to, let me move this over. You need software to get you up to 170 FPS. There's a problem. A big problem. Because at this point, this is telling me that it's running better at 4K. I would imagine they did it at 4K. Oh no, they did it at 1080p high setting. My bad. 1080p high setting. Even at 1080p high setting, well, no. Because at 1080p high setting, I sit right here at 243 FPS with frame generation, with ray tracing. I sit right about here. So that part I didn't look at. I should have looked at it. But still, I really don't feel that it's going to be an advantage. I mean, if you look at the difference, between the 1% lows and the average FPS on the 5060 at 1080p high settings, you're only looking at a 20.5% difference between the 1% lows and that 1080 at average FPS at 1080p. So that's telling me the difference between this with just frame generation and ray tracing being at 42.5, and if I minus the 20, let's say 20.5% from that, that's telling me that there's only not much of a difference. I mean, there's not much of a balance, truthfully. So let me read what you guys are writing. Geez, you guys got up there quite a bit. So, yes, I'm bending my neck again. I know you guys are thinking that, so I'll just get that out of there. It's gonna be good. Hi there, Kai. Welcome to the channel. It's not gonna be a bad thing, guys. Look, it's a graphics card, regardless. It doesn't. I mean, as long as it's bringing you above stutter rate, like anything above 45 to 50 or 55 FPS. Above a stutter rate, which your 1% lows, I always think that you should have your 1% lows no lower than 55, but anything above that, it's not going to be a bad thing. But you're just paying for the software, not the hardware. It's like if you're getting the operating system from Microsoft, that's all you're paying for is the software. As far as the hardware wise, performance on its own, it's not going to be there. So if that's what you're thinking, that you're going to get the performance hardware wise, that's the whole idea. What everybody's going about is the hardware. So not a lot of people are going to be happy with this card. Some will, but not a lot of people are going to be happy. If I'm going to recommend it, I'm kind of up in the air about recommending it, because for the simple fact that you got the 50-50 on one side right here, you got the 50-60 here, and there's only a $50 difference. $50, maybe less by the time launch comes up. It might be to where the 50-60 is still at 300, but you got the 50-50 that's at $270, well, about $275, $280. Then you get a $20 difference. So we don't know. Yeah, I agree. Take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, I do agree with that, 100%. But you gotta look at the worst case scenario too. Is it going to be viable for what you're trying to build or what you're trying to do, the games you're trying to play? That's another thing that comes in play. So there's many things that come in play when it comes to the graphics card. Not a lot of people are going to be happy with the performance of it, because it's not going to be enough for their gaming style. You buy a graphics card now these days to your gaming style. Trust me, and that's the way it rolls. Back then, years ago, when it come to graphics cards, before NVIDIA and, NVIDIA came out, you had like your ATI, and you had your older, I would call back then newer cards. Gaming wise, it wasn't really a frame rate kind of thing, but now it's all about the frame rates and the nostalgia of how it looks. So let's read on. Still worth a shot if the 50-50 is 75 watt motherboard power only. Yeah, well, if it is, that's going to be something new. You can already get a 50-60 for $299. What's the point of saving $50 is what I don't get about this product. Yeah, I do agree with that. That's what I'm trying to explain. I don't get it neither. So is a 16 gigabyte low profile single slot bus powered 5050 was available for $250, then I'd buy it. I agree. That'd be 16 gigabytes. Be a different story. And also too, maybe if they would put maybe a 256-bit bus on it, that would be a definite game changer. I think these companies need to stop worrying about so much of people modifying their hardware. Like these companies, they're so worried about if you're going to modify your hardware, they got to take away the amount of bus in order to keep you from modifying your hardware. Just like with the 4070, it's got a 192-bit bus. If it had a 256-bit bus with 12 gigabytes VRAM, which wouldn't be possible, but could be possible, then I would have 16 gigabytes VRAM. Could or couldn't. But they're always afraid of something, that they're not going to get their profit share, basically. So it's all about the money. It's the same architecture and bad power supply. PCs implement a 5050. It's a plug and play. It's still the same architecture, and Blackwell is not that popular. Yep, I agree with him. MTBK, I agree with you on that. Big Frame says you can also just use lossless scaling on the 3050. Yeah, that's true. But make sure it's a 8 gigabyte of VRAM on the 3050, not the 6 gigabyte one. Because some people are complaining about it on lossless scaling. But, you know, who am I? They're just a bunch of people that are saying it. They could just be complaining about it and not have anything to say about it. Yeah, I don't use lossless scaling. I got my fancy mods on FS7 and call it a day. There you go. Vote now if you want better silicon for the next generation. Yeah, true, true. Jay, can you show video cards? The link in the channel, graphic cards. Maybe there will be one X 8-pin PCIe power connector cards. Maybe some are without. Okay. So oh. Let's find out. One 8-pin connector, dual slot, 130 watts, 300 PSU. It's got 3 display ports, 1 HDMI. It's got one 8-pin connector. One 8-pin connector. I doubt it's going to look like this. So, but yeah, it's got one 8-pin connector. Boy, that bandwidth is just so low for that amount of FPS, guys. Look, don't jump off just so soon. I'm kind of, I mean, cards that have this kind of bandwidth are like, let me see. Let me remember. RX 590 GME specs. I mean, if the memory type was different on this card and the bus interface was different, I mean, that's so close to a 3050. And this has got one 8-pin connector, dual slot, 144 TMUs, 32 ROPS. Let's see. It's got 80 TMUs and 32 ROPS. SM count 20. I mean, guys, you can see where I'm going with this. I mean, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. I mean, $6,000 gigabits per second difference. I mean, 256 gigabits per second on the bandwidth. Look at this, 224. Do you see the difference? This is the RX 580 GME. This is an $80 card. Oh, my bad, guys. Sorry there, MTBK, you're right. Maybe I should do that more often. You guys are thinking I'm losing my mind. Okay. 590. Look. 590 GME. Been tested and everything else. Look at this. Bandwidth 256 gigabits. I know it's DDR5. GDDR5, I know it is, but still. Come on, guys. It's not hard to see what's going on here. I mean, get 2,304 shading units. And they got 2,560 shading units. How close is that? And people are going to sit there and wonder, are we just paying for the software? And it kind of looks like you are. I took the oldest, crappiest card and put it up head to head. And the difference is the L2 is 32 megs. And then you got your L1, you got your RT cores. And this doesn't have RT cores, but if it did, and it had more cache to it, this would be a beast of a card. Right here. For $80. $80 card. And you can see that over here, the ROPS are 32 on the 5050. ROPS are 32 on the 590 GME. TMUs are 144. TMUs are 80. Guys, is that not obvious? Am I imagining this? I keep going back to the GME is because that's a reference card to me. It's already been tested. It's already ready to go. That tells me and gives me a reference line where to start with. The lowest reference line I can start with. And I'm using that in this example. I run an RX 480 on 8 lanes 2 slots via PCH chips runs fine. Exactly. Don't forget that NVIDIA has dual instruction shaders, which AMD has half the number of shaders. Yeah, I know. Per CU compared to NVIDIA SM count, which is 4096 shaders on AMD is equal to 8192 on NVIDIA with dual shaders. Yep. True. Shading units, tensor cores. But looking at this card, it's got 80 tensor cores, and it's viable for Microsoft upgrade when they do the software upgrade, and they're requiring 50 tops. This will have 80 tops, and it'll be well within the parameter of the upgrade for the software. Viable wise, this card's not going to last you but a couple years, probably about 3.5 years. Then you get sick of the fact of trying to play a game, and then you got to take and master it just the right way. You got to have a crystal ball, you know, in order to get it to work. That's what I had to do with that GTX 1650. I had to have a crystal ball to make it work. So this is just a laptop level GPU. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I agree with you, fake frames. It should be handheld level performance at this point. I agree. But if they're going to start sticking mobile processors on discrete GPU PCBs, why would you buy it? Be honest with yourself. Why would you buy it? Especially when you got a, I mean, let's do this. Let's go to Newegg. Okay. So let's see. That's 16 gigabyte. That's 8 gigabyte. Let's see. For $300 going today, I'm going to tell you like this. They're only going to be looking to get the 5050 as a collector piece for their shelf at this point. So 256-bit bus is RTX 5080 territory for $1,000. Memory controllers cost area to make on the wafers, and ultimately money. They make chips profitable as possible, and as far as possible, no need to. Well, yeah. But this is what they can do. And this is what I heard from a friend of mine. They can put extra controllers on the PCBs to make up for the difference of the controllers that they would have had on the GPU die. There is an option that you can use, and you can split the controller into different fashions. You have a whole PCB, you can add on, you can add on extra controllers to make your RAM work. That means you would have to redo and reconstruct the whole PCB in order for it to work with your GPU die. But yeah, it's possible. I was talking to a couple friends about that. JK says NVIDIA drivers are CPU hogs. Yeah. Unless you're running 4K, then that changes the nostalgia of it. My 2679 V4 CPU runs 8% faster using a 5700 XT over a Titan XP. Well, like I said, you know, if you get the right combination, it works. I mean, the right combination, it'll work great. Simple. Just 5700 XT is more or less like your early adopter in reference to like your 6800 XT, which your 6800 XT now, the prices on that is around $400 some. Now, if I were to look up for an RX 6800 XT, let's see what it looks like. Well, that one's $995, but I think I've seen it for cheaper. Yeah, right here. Right here. 6800 XT, $380. 6800 XT, $380. Which is 4% faster than the 4070. $16 gigabytes, 256-bit bus, GDR6. Look, if AMD can create a card like this, so can NVIDIA. That's the whole deal. That's the whole schmeal right there. I mean, right there. That's the whole deal. It might be refurbished. I know it says refurbished, but still, it can still be a monster. You know, if you really want to look at it, then you'll pay like, oh, that's refurbished. You'll pay like $1,000 for it, unless you get refurbished, which is right here. And it's the XT Gaming OC. I mean, $380. Guys, if that's the real deal, you can't beat it. You can't beat that right there. So, it's a hell of a deal. It's actually a W5700. I got new and sealed box for $169. Well, that's not bad for a 5700. But I was looking at that and I was like, damn, that's a hell of a price drop. They got right here, refurbished, Asus, $409. I mean, refurbished, refurbished, 7700 XT. They got a lot of refurbished going on. A lot of refurbished. So, $6,800. Power Color 6800 XT. That looks like a non-OC. So, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Damn, guys. Because you know, and I'm going to bring this to the you know part. You know, Newegg has that refurbished program. And they're refurbishing all the older hardware that they've been buying from many people and getting it to, you know, a good status. I mean, if you really think about it, it might not be a bad deal neither. To get my hands on a 6800 XT, I would be like, oh my God, yes. Because I know the value of that card. Just like the 6950 XT. I know the value of that card. Those are two powerhouse cards. People might not think, well, you get the 9070 and the 9070 XT now, and ain't no powerhouse now. Yeah, you might be right. But when it comes to saving $1 or $2, and let's say you don't want to spend $300 for a card that can't keep up with, you know, the 6800 XT. So you go back and you say to yourself, okay, well then, why not just look up the 6800 XT? Simple as that. Why not just look it up? That's why. It's got 4,608 cores. It's got 288 TMUs. It's got a hell of a lot more ROPS. It's got 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 with 256-bit bus. I like the look. Let's see. It is still active in production, so that means the drivers will still be there. Architecture's RDNA 2.0, which they got updates and upgrades you can go. So you're looking at between the 4070 and the 6800 XT. And then 6% faster is the 68 to 4070. So look at the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte right here. 12% slower than the 6800 XT. 9060 XT. You see how much slower it is. Your 3070, your 2080s, your 6750s, and so on. This right here, between this and the 4070, I think is the two most powerhouse cards I've ever seen. You guys might beg to differ about that, but if Newegg is selling this card for $390, $399, $379. Let's see. I'm looking for the really good one. It's out of stock. Looking for a really good one. Come on. I'm looking for an OC model. That's what I'm looking for. There. That's an OC model. That's an OC model right there. For $380. Okay, so for 380 bucks, that's a big steal. Compared to the 4070, you'll be in over $600. So you do your math. You take 600 and you minus 380. You save $220. That can buy you a ton of RAM for your PC. That $220 can buy you a brand new CPU. It can buy you anything. It can buy you a whole new graphics card. Saving that kind of cash. Think about it. So you get 2 graphics cards for the price of 1. That gives you a bigger field. You can buy 2 graphics cards for the price of 1. Even though one's refurbished, it's still an overclocked model. And, you know, you can buy a decent one for $220. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Let's see, what do you guys got kicking on here? Used 2080 Ti is around $250. I do agree. Used Titan are $250. Vega 64 performance as well as a 4060. Yeah, I agree with that, JK. I do agree with that. But guys, if you're going to buy a graphics card, and I know everybody wants to stay on the newest graphics card, but there comes a time to where you really don't need the newest graphics card to play your games. This 6800 plays just as good as my 4070. So, because if you don't use ray tracing and you want to do rasterization, this is right here is just good enough. I mean, it's great enough. Rasterization, ray tracing ain't everything, you know. But that's if you want to buy a card like that. That's up to you. I mean, me, I would love to get the 6950 XT because I know that's a little monster ass card. That card's a monster. I've seen its performance, watched and looked at many of charts. So at one time they had it at $550 at one time. I regret not buying it. I would probably get the RTX 5050 or an Intel Arc B580 for $250, but the future brings better cards. Yeah, I mean, don't count out because they do. Yeah, I do agree. You got the 60 series that's going to be coming out for NVIDIA. And AMD's already talking about a 10,000 series. I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket when it comes to the 5050. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not going to put my all eggs in one basket for the 5050 because if I want more performance under rasterization, yeah, you're right, fake frames. 6950 XT equals the 7900 GRE, which equals a 4070 Super in raw raster. Yeah, I do agree with that. That I do agree with. And at the time, they had the 7900 GRE at $550. And at that time, they had the 6950 XT at $550. $50 cheaper than the 4070 Super. But since they discontinued the 7900 GRE, good luck trying to find one at a good deal. Unless you get it used. But you guys know the point. You guys know the drill. We're not here to be worrying about the then. We're here to worry about the now. Not the then. We're here to worry about the now. The now and the future. So, think about the now and the future. What would you rather have in the now compared to the future? Well, from what I'm hearing is that AMD is going to be coming out with the 10,000 series. That's one. Intel is going to be coming out with a B770 or a B790 or something like that. Supposed to have 32 gigabytes of RAM, VRAM. Not sure if it's a GDR6 or GDR7. And also, too, AMD. Oh, wait a minute. I said Intel with a B770 or a B790. AMD with a 10,000 series graphics cards. 10,000 series. Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. So they're supposed to have a 10,000 series card. They might call it the 10K 70. I'd imagine they put 10K 70 in there. Or a 10K 70 XT. That's crazy. But, and then you got NVIDIA that's going to be doing the 60 series, could be the 6040. I heard a rumor of a 6040. I don't know why they would think about something like that, but I have no idea why. So, look at the new Arc B60. Looks like. Okay, well, let's see what the new Arc B. Let's look at the B60. See what we can find. Says, sorry. Okay, so let's do this. Wow. There's a B50. They got a Pro B50 and a Pro B60. Okay, well, let's find out the specifications. Let's see, what do we got? It's got 20 XE cores, 20 ray tracing, 456 gigabits per second on the memory bandwidth, 197 INT8 tops, 4 display ports. That's the B60 series graphics. They have an A40 and an A60 as well. I don't know. The B60 don't look that bad. Let's see what else we can find out about it. 5nm process. It was launched in Q3. Launch date is Q3 2025. 5 render slices, 20 ray tracing units. Has XE matrix extensions. 160, vector 160. GPU clocks 2400 megahertz. TBP, total board power is 200 watts. Graphics clock 2000. Still 120 to 200 watts. PCIe 5.0 X8. 192-bit bus with 24 gigabytes of GDDR6. But memory speed's 19 gigabits per second. Looks like it's set up for 8K display. That's 8K display. Oh, my bad. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah. Why do I keep doing that? For some reason. My bad. We'll start back at the beginning. The B60, XT 2 cores, 5nm, 20 XE cores, 5 render slices. Ray tracing units is 20. Intel X matrix extensions, 160. Vector engines, 160, 2400 megahertz, 200 watts. PCIe 5.0 X8, 24 gigabytes of GDDR6, 192-bit bus. Memory bandwidth 456 gigabits per second. Memory speeds 19 gigabytes per second. It'll support HDMI 2.1, DP 2.1, up to UHBR 13.5, DP 2.1, up to UHBR 10. Not bad. Variable refresh rate, yes. HDMI will go all the way up to 8K technology. Not bad. Does ray tracing, does many things. Many things. Multi-format code engine. It's got 2. Wow. Super sampling, PyTorch. HDR10 too. That's good if you got an HDR10 monitor. Wow. Okay, well, I can see your point. Let's hope the price on that's not too bad. So. JK, I do agree with you. I do agree with you on that. 24 gigabytes. That is interesting. I would love to see what Intel's doing on that card for price. I don't even think that, unless you guys got a price, because I haven't seen no prices yet. I mean, wow. That card could be interesting. It could come in handy, guys. But the caveat is it's not going to be strong enough. Might have the VRAM, but it's still not going to have the strength. I won't buy it. I don't blame you. Knock on wood. $600 to $800, really? I can't foresee it having that expense. $600, like I told you guys, that's going to be like my all right there maximum. Because I know there's, except for the 1%, I know the rest of the consumers in the world are not going to pay that kind of price. You got 1 to 5% right here. You got 30 to 34% for, you know, that's like the 4K crowd. You got 30 to 34% for 1440p, and then you got the rest for 1080p. I can tell you most of them are going to be sitting at 1080p because of the money. I have the money, but not for a dual GPU. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't blame you. Not unless you get a 9070 XT with the single slot and no power connector, and it's only 75 watts, but gets the same performance as the 9070 XT with the big plug-in connector. That would be different too. See, those are things that these companies never try to achieve, is to give you 75 watt cards that they all cry about, and they all cry about this, is because of the amount of power the cards use. So if they're crying about that, then how come they don't build a card that's less than 70 watts that gets the same or equal performance as one that pulls 400 watts? Have they not learned how to take that transistor and break it down to pulling millivolts or milliwatts? Everything in the milliwatts instead of pulling wattage? No, they haven't learned that yet. They're just now getting their feet wet in 3 nanometer technology. They've been on 5 nanometer for so long that I don't even think they can get to, and they were claiming that AMD and Intel were going to get to, what was it, the X version of the 2 nanometer process, the 2 nanometer X process, something like that. How are they going to get to 2 nanometers? They got a lot of work ahead of them just to get to that 2 nanometers. Some are talking about them going down to 1 nanometer. But you got quantum technology at 0.5 nanometers. So to get it any smaller than 1 nanometers on a classical computer, you're in the realm of quantum technology. So I like this cup, I really do. And hopefully you guys too, like by subscribing, by the way. That right there is a monster. That's better than the cups I had before, I think. So yeah, I can double up on this. I put a straw in mine. That way you don't spill all over. So, yeah. So, guys, it's not hard to look at the writing on the wall. It's not hard to look at the writing on the wall. Are you the kind of person that's looking for a 128-bit 8 GB card that's giving you less performance than the same $50 more card like the 5060? If you're still looking for 8 GB of VRAM, when it comes to the 5050 and the 5060, there's a big gap between the two. Might not be that big, but it could be a wide gap. It could be 13%. It could be, usually on an average, it's usually in between 5 and 7%. But it will have the software capability. It'll get X4 frame generation. And if they do lower the latency and lower the amount of usage on the VRAM, that could come out to be a plus for everybody. For the 5050, it has its good sides and it has its bad sides. We have to look at the good side. We have to look at the bad side. We have to look at both sides. Can't just look at one side and not look at the other. So, yeah, 1 nanometer or even 2 nanometers would enable so many fast chips. Not 21st century Star Trek data chips, but our needs. Very capable. Yeah, it could, if it does large amount of process in shorter amount of time. That would be even greater. I mean, if you're playing your games and you're running on quantum technology, there's no need for frame generation. Truthfully, there is no need for frame generation, because that CPU could be a CPU, which, if you put quantum technology on a CPU and you put quantum technology on a GPU, okay, there's no need in frame generation, because as fast as that game is moving like this, your eyes could not keep up with it. No way in hell. And even if they ran quantum technology with 8 GB of VRAM, and minimized the textures and some of the assets and made it run smooth and efficient, quantum technology with 8 GB of VRAM, that would be something to see. And then everybody would be like, well, how come you put 8 GB of VRAM on this card and it's not even worth it? You'll be surprised how far they can shrink the assets and bring them down to bite-sized assets and make your VRAM on your card being less of use. They just haven't gotten there yet. I think for gaming, quantum technology won't help. One needs precise mathematics and not any state at the same time. Yeah, but if you do that with your graphics card and use quantum technology using the quantum states in your graphics, I think that would be a game changer. Serious game changer. Then there's no need for a powerful CPU. You only need a CPU that's does what it needs for computation. Wait until PCI 6.0. Yeah, I know. Because now, if you look at the PCIe graph, let me see if I can find it. I'll see if I can find that graph. Damn. Okay. From what I'm gathering, hold on, guys. I'm finding it. I know I've seen the graph somewhere. That gives me the total breakdown of that. Okay. Well, this will have to do. We'll just bring you guys over there. Okay. It's a little bit smaller, but looking at 6.0 gives you 64 on that, and you get 32 on 5.0, and you get 64 on 6.0, which the table given, but that's at 2021. They did that, you know, we're supposed to have PCI 6.0 in 2021, to be real with you guys. So we would have been at a higher PCIe bracket in 2025, because it looks like 17, 19, 21, and 7.0 would have been 23, 8.0 would have been 25, right? So we would have been at 8.0 in today. And no, we're only at 5.0. So we are behind. Let's see. True, but in FF7, my waifus run and I define the way they are dressed already. Oh my god. But maybe microprocessor engineers Jim Keller vision becomes reality, and when we have video games where we can interact with AI in real time, tells us to shut up and all that. Yeah, when we have that kind of that know-how, then we'll be into a good thing. But we are not even, we are many years behind, because this is 2019 that PCIe 5.0 was supposed to come out. So we figured we're 6 years behind in technology. We are 6 years behind in technology, gentlemen. And ladies, if there's ladies out there too. I don't want to sound like I'm offending everybody, which I'm not. So, knowing this is hampering us in our speeds. Because I'm going to tell you, if I were to get out a notepad, right? If I were to get out a notepad and my calculator, and I was sitting there looking at this, and we were supposed to be at PCIe 8.0, so we look at 64 times 2, that's 128. That's at 7.0, and times that by 2. 256 gigabits. So PCIe 8.0 equals 256 gigabits a second. Okay? PCIe 7.0 equals 128 gigabits a second. But this should be where today is. This should be, let me move this down. This should be in 2025. This should be in 2023. And this in 2021. PCIe 6.0 equals 64 but no, we are in 2019, we are in 2025, and they're using 2019 tech for 2025. We are 6 years behind. 6 years behind because it's a greed thing. So no PCIe Plex bridge CPUs available. Plex 5 bridge price is ridiculous. Yep. PCIe 7 will be pointless for consumers for a very long time, since the 5090 can't fully saturate PCIe 4.0x16 at the moment. True. But whose fault is this? We should be at 8.0. Now let me move this over a little bit. We should be right here in 2025, but we're not. We are right down here at the bottom when it comes to speeds and everything else with our PCs. These companies are hindering our games by what they're doing, and you guys know what I'm talking about when it comes to all these enhancements that they're making everybody pay for no reason. All these extra enhancements don't make sense when you're playing a game. Your eyeball can only see so much color. But the problem is latency. The whole problem of this is latency, stuttering, and everything else. But they can't solve that because they can't get up to where they need to be. They're so far behind in technology. It's going to take at least another 10 years for them to actually catch up to where we are right now, or where we should have been. So don't say this is 2025 anymore, because basically in 2025 we're 6 years behind. So getting here, it's going to be 2028. So might as well say this is 2028. No, we got to look at it differently here. We got to look at it differently. Okay, so yes, I know I'm kind of stretching things around, guys. There. Now we're better. Okay. So 2019. So now we changed the times. So now we changed the times. So there we go. We changed the times. So now this is today. This is where we're going to be in 2028, 2031, and 2034. There. Now we got the times. And if it doesn't stay like this, then it'll be about 2040 before we even get to 8.0. Consoles have one advantage that PCs don't when it comes to the unified memory architecture compared to standard PCs. And that is much easier to use GPU decompression on the GPUs. Yeah, I do agree with that. For direct storage, yeah. It's up to the games. When it comes to PCs, it's up to the game developers to put on direct storage for PCs. They haven't only done that on 2 games so far, unless they've done it more, but I haven't heard anything about it. Since PCs, when they use direct storage, it has to go from the PCIe interface, which is true, the system RAM, back to the SSD, back to the system RAM, to the CPU, and then it has to make 2 round trips before it gets to the GPU. It has to make 2 full full circles before it gets back, because it has to do a check. It has to go back to the system RAM and then go forward. Has to do some kind of, somebody said it had to do some kind of check. I think it was a quality check or something like that, or integrity check. But our PCIe buses are so slow, it's not going to handle direct storage. And I do agree with you about that. Since then, you know. Unless direct storage means that you have unless if you got direct storage onto the GPU and it goes from that storage on the GPU directly for the GPU, that's a different story. But I haven't heard anything yet about it. It would be something if they did it like that. Then that means you would have a removable M.2 NVMe SSD that you can plug in onto your graphics card that goes direct storage. That means just uses that M.2 for direct storage only. That it has no other use. I wouldn't mind putting 1 terabyte on. That would give a lot of great advantage, especially if it makes it, if the connection of that drive is on that GPU. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't cut it in. Just makes no sense for them to run it through the whole motherboard. So, back in the day, I had 72 pins. Back in the day, I still think I have 72 pins. If I think about it, let's see. My Fix Me box. Let me move this. Oh. You remember the day when they had RAM like this? Look at that. Stacked RAM like that. That's some stacked RAM right there. Look at that. Remember back in the day having that stacked ass RAM on there. 72 pins. Let's see if I got any. Wow. Is it? Oh, I think I got that other box in storage. Man, that's tiny RAM. Look at that. That's tiny RAM. Compared to this, that looks like tiny RAM. Look at that. That looks like tiny RAM. And that is, whew, I don't even remember what that is. But, yeah. If I want to look at, I want older system DDR. DDR RAM. I think my other box has got the 72 pin. Yeah. I got a lot of older RAM. This isn't all of it. This is just part of it. I got such a big collection, as you never know when you're going to need it. You know, I just got a ton of it. Because I never know when I'm going to need it. I get an older motherboard that needs RAM. I never know when I'm going to need it. I would say I would have close to, in this box, maybe about, on a good day, probably about close to $2,000 worth of RAM. That's a good little chunk, don't you think? I could probably dig up a 128 megabyte set of 30 pins too. Yeah, I know. I could dig up the chips themselves that you had to put onto the motherboard, and you got the big ass motherboard like this too. Yeah, I remember those days. That's not my first rodeo, man. I do remember all these little, you know, where you had to have a daughter board to a motherboard in order to get system RAM, or you had to have, in order to get integrated graphics, they had it set up like that too and stuff. It's just crazy how they had things. But yeah, I know the 72 pin. The 72 pin they used to use with the 256. So, I think the 250. It was 256. Was it two? My mind's just out there. How about that? So, all in all, conclusion about the 5050. What do you guys think? I want to know. I'm going back to the original plan of this live stream. I want to know from you guys, would it be a card you would buy? Would it be a card that you would buy? Ask yourself that question. If it come down to the end of the day and you only had $250 and you had to have a little bit more for the taxes and everything else, would you buy this card? Even if they didn't have the 5060, but they had very few choices. Would this be a card that you would buy? Possibly. But would you buy it just for the software performance? Or would you buy it for hardware performance? We all know that hardware performance on this thing and having such low rates across the board on this card, it's gonna be like not even your 16-year-old kid's gonna be happy with this graphics card. Probably could be and make it work if he was looking at like to make it work, but I mean, I don't know. Only if it's 16 gigabytes. That's the thing, it's not. It's 8 gigabytes. Now, and later on down the road, if NVIDIA wanted to, they could say, okay, well, we're going to have a 50-50 with 8 gigabytes, a 50-50 with 16 gigabytes, and a 50-50 with 8 gigabytes, a 50-50 with 12 gigabytes, and 50-50 with 16 gigabytes. Now, if they gave you 3 options, that would be a better deal. If they gave you 3 options going up the stack, you could have 8, 12, or 16 going up the whole stack. I think that would be a game changer. At least you got 3 different prices. You can make 3 different decisions on one graphics card, whichever one you want. Now, yeah, they could do a 50-50. They can do a 50 Ti. Well, they got a 50. No, they don't get a 50-50 Ti. They can do a 50-50. They can do a 50-50 Ti, and they can do a 50-50 Ti Super. So, yeah, 8, 12, and 16. Perfect. I mean, for that series, that's perfect. It gives you the best of all worlds, different prices, 3 different decisions of what you want to do. Then you wouldn't hear other reviewers bashing NVIDIA over the fact that you don't have a better option. Giving that extra options on a 50-50, 50-60, 50-70, 50-80, and 50, all the way up the stack. Giving it different options with different prices. At least put $100 difference in between each one of the cards, so people can see that they have a choice. 250, 350, 450 for your 50-50 lineup. Right? Then you got your 50-60 lineup, where you got the 50-60, 50-60 Ti, and 50-60 Ti Super. Same lineup, different prices. You got the $200 to $300 range 50-50s. You got the $300 to $400 50-60s. And then you got the $400 to $500 50-70s. And then so on. So if they would have stacked it all up like this, I think they would have sold a lot more cards and people would have been a lot more happy. Because now you got a wide variety of cards. Now there's nothing to nitpick on, especially if you got a 16 gigabyte card in that bracket. And you got a 12 gigabyte card in that bracket. What are they going to complain about? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And these companies say, okay, we send your card for, they say to the reviewers, we're going to send you a card for 12 and the 16 gigabyte. If you want to benchmark the 8 gigabyte, you can go buy it yourself. That's what they should have did. No, they didn't do that. So, now they're left holding the bag, trying to sort things out, NVIDIA is kind of like shoving the reviewers off to the side, and they're going to be and if these reviewers keep complaining about how bad NVIDIA is on their products, what's going to happen is NVIDIA is going to give everybody the middle finger. They're going to open up their own, and they got the money for this. They're going to do their own reviews of their own product on their own channel, and they're just going to cut all reviewers out and be done with the headache and say, this is what it is, and this is what you get. And then reviewers will have to wait till launch day to buy a card in order to review it. So I'm not complaining about the 50-50. It's a good, small idea. It works. So, but would I buy it? Yes and no. Like I said, it's a mixed bag right now. If NVIDIA gets the assets for the game, the assets for the polygons and stuff like that, and gets it down to manageable size, like instead of running in gigabytes for the assets, running it down into megabytes, like they said on video cards. Make sure you guys check them out, by the way, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button here too. So if they get the assets down and it's manageable around 5 to 6 gigabytes of VRAM, those 8 gigabyte cards are not going to be a problem. They're not going to be a problem. You're going to play your game just fine with less assets and more backup of the VRAM. And people can stop complaining about the cards. Now, if it was 4 gigabytes, guys, if it was 4 gigabytes, yeah, I would say no. At 4 gigabytes, that's where my bottom line is. So anything below 4 gigabytes or even 4 gigabytes, that's where my bottom line is. I wouldn't even consider a 4 gigabyte card. Even though I have 2 of them, I still wouldn't consider to recommend that to anybody. Not unless they necessarily needed it. So a 5050 Ti Super already exists. It's called the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. That how can you prove that? We don't even know the scale to say that it was a 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. We don't even know the scales or have concrete evidence of the scales. For the simple fact, and I'm going to explain this why. If a company says that this graphics card is this, and then you got a reviewer saying, oh, it should be this because it's doing this, they don't make the scales. The people that build the card set the scale. If they say it's a 5060, it's a 5060. They say it's a 5050, it's a 5050. They precisely set these scales. But what you do is you get other reviewers setting their own scale where they say it's where it's landing at, and that's their scale. But that's not the factory scale. That's not the company scale. That's the reviewer scale. You got 2 different scales. So when a factory, the company sets that scale, that's what it is. But reviewers have their own scales. They can set it whatever way they want. You know, me, my personal opinion, if it plays games, I can care what scale it's on. It can be on the lowest. It can be on the lowest scale in the world. If the 5050 plays, bottom line, better than the 5090 or the 590 GME, or better than the 6600, or better than the older cards, that's where the scale starts. When you play the game and you're playing it yourself and you played other cards below that one, and that card plays above those older cards, that sets the scale. It's where it lands on the scale. You can't put your thumb on the scale. That's cheating. It's where it lands on the scale. And where this one is landing, even though that it's not benchmarked yet, it's landing way, way, way far away from where it needs to be. I mean, way, way, way far away. And I know you guys say, well, you know, tech power-up's just relative and everything else. But to you, it might be relative, yeah. To me, I kind of look at it in a different scale. So if you're telling me that it does better than a 3050 8GB, telling me it's doing better than the 3050 8GB, and it's doing better than these, this is where it says it's doing better than a Titan X. It's doing better all the way down this scale. So you got all these graphics cards down this scale. All these graphics cards. Going all the way up to 100. So you got a lot of graphics cards. You got a lot of graphics cards. So this is point blank. If you can get an Arc 580 and you go look for an Arc 580, so you look at the A580 GPU for $309. Oh, that's the B580. But still, $310. Right here, $300. And where does that sit? 3060. Let's see. Let's go all the way up the scale. Right here, 22% faster. 22% faster. For $300. So and if you want to put the $300 down on the scale, we can put 200 and 300. And then you can see what you got. 580, 3060, 7600, 5060. You got RX 580. I can't believe they sell that at that price. A 5850. You got a 5870. 5850. You got an A770. Look at that. A770. Definitely faster. Vega 56, 219. Refurbished 3060, 300. 5870, 275. B570 with 10 gigabytes of VRAM, 229, 230. I mean, it goes on and on and on, guys. I mean, on and on and on. Get a B570 again. I mean, it goes on and on. So looking in that price range, you can see the difference of buying a 5050 compared to buying an older card. 5050 Ti Super already exists. Yeah, we talked about that. But like I said, guys, it's your decision when you're buying a graphics card, soup, nuts, whatever. You buy it to fit your lifestyle. Do not buy it to fit somebody else's lifestyle. You don't need it to fit my lifestyle. You need it to fit your lifestyle. You need to weigh out the fact of what games you play on it, and by all the benchmarking you can find out there, weigh up in an average what it's going to do. What's on the benchmarks that are out there and what this card benchmarks at. Is it going to meet your satisfaction? If it does, then it's for you. If it doesn't, then it's not for you. So look at what it will do for you first before you buy it. Do your homework. Me right now, I'm just speculating on what the card might do. What it might do. I'm not saying it will do it. I'm just speculating on what it might do. But also, too, be very speculative when it comes to running a card like this on an older system. Keep that in mind. You got 5.0 here, and benchmarks are on the 5.0 series. And you go to put a 3.0 in here. You put this card on a 3.0 motherboard. And you're not getting the speeds that one person on that 5.0 motherboard is getting. And then you're saying, like, what the hell? Is my system broken? Or, you know, you might get minor crashes and everything else, that the graphics card's not supportive of your motherboard. There's a lot of factors when you use older hardware with newer graphics cards. Compatibility is the biggest issue right now. So if you find a motherboard that's compatible with that graphics card, then go with it. That's my 2 cents to you guys, and what I feel it should be and shouldn't be. But either way you look at it, everybody has a choice. Everybody has a choice. You have a choice. I have a choice. Everybody in this world has a choice. You can choose what motherboard you want. You can choose what CPU you want, what system RAM you want, what SSD you want, what power supply, what fans, what cooling solutions you want, everything. Your build, your choice. You choose it. Not because I say it's better or worse. You choose it because you feel it's better for you. I know I talk about the products, and if I get the products, I review the products and tell you what I feel about it. But I want you to use your best judgment when it comes to buying products off the internet. Especially buying PC components. I want you to use your best judgment. Do your homework, test it out, and see if it works. Look, you have a choice too. You can buy the product, test it out. If it doesn't work for you, you can send it back. Just keep the boxes, tell them you want to return because this is not working for you, and return the item. Which, you know, if you're going to buy something, just use your judgment. Buy the best products you can. And if you don't know what to buy, then ask somebody. Ask somebody that will give you the detailed information you need for your first PC build or your second or whatever. I got people that been building for years but still come to me and ask me, Jay, what do you use for your builds? I said, well, start at the beginning. What do you need your CPU for? Is it for gaming? Content creating? Is it for office work? Why don't you just get it for all three? Get it for all three. Cover the bases. Maybe in the future you're going to need it. You never know. So I always tell you to go with the best X processor, not X3D, X processor, because you get a high-end X processor that's got a lot of VRAM or a lot of cache on it as it is. And it has a lot of positive buffering. Everybody runs to the X3D, thinks it's got the wonders in the world, but you get better clocks on an X processor than you do an X3D. And plus you have everything spread out more carefully on an X processor compared to an X3D, which they shove the V cache right underneath it. So 5050 Ti Super exists. Yeah. I don't know why I keep reading that, but I keep reading that for some reason, fake frames. But anyway, guys, I told you my 2 cents, and I told you what's going on today, and I told you what I'm seeing as a foreseeable outcome when it comes to these new cards. I'm really keeping my hopes up on the 60 series. I got to have some kind of hope. I know you guys got to have some kind of hope. But I can tell you we are going to be calling it right here on the video, and I hope you guys understand and enjoyed your time here for the last couple hours with me on the channel. Don't forget, we're going to have another hoopla on Wednesday around 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, of course. Another live stream there. And I probably got a few more videos coming out this week, hopefully. But if I don't, then we'll catch up with you on next week. So, and if also, too, you guys want to help the channel out, then hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Don't forget about the notification bell so you know when I post the next video. And if you want to become a member of the family, well, I'm not saying, subscriber, you're still a member of the family, but if you want to become exclusive member to the family, then hit the join button. It's fairly cheap and it helps support the channel. But anyway, guys, I'm jumping out of here until the next time. Next time in the next video. You know what it is, and we'll see you on the next one. You guys have a great day. Be safe, and we will see you then.